go. It's loading. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Kelly Fitzgerald Junco, and I am a member of the She Recovers marketing team, and I'm also a She Recovers coach. My pronouns are she, her, and I am broadcasting to you today from Cape Coral, Florida, where I live and work on the native lands of the Seminole and Calusa peoples. Thank you for joining us for this She Recovers Mental Health Monday session. We have been hosting this recovery-focused educational series since May of 2020, and we hold deep gratitude for all of our guests who share their time and expertise with us each week. The She Recovers Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit public charity. We connect, support, and empower women and non-binary individuals who identify with women's communities who are in or seeking recovery. We are all recovering from something, whether it be from substance use and trauma to any other life issue from which we hope to heal. We believe in empowering individuals to find and follow individualized pathways and patchworks of recovery and criticizing none. If you feel inspired to become a supporter of our Lifeline organization, please visit sherecovers.org. Your donations and fundraising efforts are what make all of our accessible recovery touchpoints and resources possible. A note about the tech. We have folks joining us within the private webinar and on Facebook Live. Please note, for webinar participants, I am available to respond to inquiries in the chat, but please do consider saving your questions for the speaker until the presentation is complete. To ensure your questions don't get missed, please use the Q&A function available within the webinar. Within the chat, you can choose to send your comment to our hosts and panelists only, or to everyone attending the webinar. If you wish to access closed captioning, please make sure it is enabled on your personal Zoom account. For those of you who are tuning in via Facebook Live, please note that this is a public Facebook page, and if you engage with the thread below this video, it may be seen by others outside of our network and will not be confidential. For those of you who don't mind other folks seeing your participation in this feed, please do drop a hello and let us know where you're joining from. Use the comment feed to share your reflections and questions. And just a friendly reminder that our She Recovers offerings and spaces are designed to be supportive, but are not a replacement for addiction treatment, therapy, psychiatric, or medical care. And with that, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Veronica Valli. And I have to say, she's very special to me personally because I read one of her books when I first got sober way back in 2013, and it was Why You Drink and How to Stop, and that made a huge impact on my life. So I'm so grateful to have Veronica here today, and she holds a special place in my heart.
Oh, thank you, Kelly.
I'm going to read your bio really fast, and then I'll hand it over to you. Veronica Valli is changing the narrative on sobriety. Continuously sober since May 2nd, 2000, and with 20 years experience as a recovery coach and psychotherapist, she understands that there is no one path to recovery. Author of books Why You Drink and How to Stop, Get Sober, Get Free, and Soberful, published by Sounds True, and it's out now, and co-host of the Soberful podcast, Veronica has helped thousands of women not only recover from alcohol, but also transform their lives. Veronica teaches that alcohol is not the problem, it's only a symptom of a deeper underlying problem. She helps women dig deep, embrace change, and become who they are meant to be. I return people to themselves, she says. Veronica works with women and men all over the world through her successful and innovative online recovery programs. She developed the Soberful program into an online subscription community, Soberful Life. Now based in the US, after relocating from the UK, she is married and lives in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, with her husband and 2 sons. You may take it away, Veronica.
Thank you. I have been told many times that it's Nevada, not Nevada. Nevadans get really...
You're right. I have said it wrong
Nevada.
before, and Lori Winfelt has corrected me as well.
Yeah, Nevadans do that. I know, it's like their thing. Thank you so much for having me. Lovely to see Kelly. I can't believe you're coming up on 10 years. That's just incredible. Lovely to be here with you. I also have a very special place in my heart for She Recovers. I remember Dawn and Taryn when they were starting out, and you know, the first event in New York, which just has been such a wonderful thing of bringing together sober women. So I'm going to be talking to you today about emotional sobriety, which is kind of just my thing. It's my jam. Because when I was 3 years sober, I stopped drinking. I got sober in the 12-step fellowships because back in 2000, that's all there was. And I did really well for a while. And then I hit my emotional rock bottom. And I was about 3 years sober. And I was not in a good place. I was in a really, really dark place. And it was a romantic relationship that got me there. And all the things that I'd been doing up until then just stopped working. I was desperate for help. And really, that whole incident was the gift of desperation for me, because it pushed me to do this deeper work that I want to talk to you about today. And that's why I talk about emotional sobriety so much, and also why I wrote my book, because I see so many people also struggling with the same things. And really, all I do is personal development for sober people. Everybody in the world has to do personal development. Everybody. We all need to work on ourselves. But most people don't know that. And we are incredibly fortunate that we have got ourselves into this situation that it's been revealed to us that there is a whole new way of living, that it's not just about stopping drinking and continuing with your life exactly as the way it was. Because I think a lot of us discover that when we stop drinking, it's not just the drinking and hangover bit that is unsatisfactory in our lives. There's a lot of other stuff that's unsatisfactory too. So let me define what I believe emotional sobriety is in my experience. And it's really two things. It's feeling comfortable in your own skin, which is liking yourself. It is also being able to have appropriate emotional responses to events. Now, what I mean by that, it doesn't mean that I 100% all the time always have an appropriate response to an event. But the thing is, when I do have an inappropriate response, and by that I mean, I don't know, maybe I've made plans with Kelly and she cancels with me and I'm just furious. And it's like, hang on a minute, that's a little out of balance there, Veronica. What's it was just, Friday night plans. And I'll because I've got this self-awareness, I'm noticing that I'm having this really kind of unbalanced emotional response to this event. And that's a red flag. So then I know what's up there. Now, I'm noticing this recently because I just turned 49, and I'm noticing that that's the signs of the perimenopause. It took me a little while to figure out why I was beginning to have these hormonal kind of emotional shifts. But once I knew, I was able to begin to deal with them. So that's the goal of sobriety. You may have heard, I know when I first got sober, and for me, I was going to meetings and doing other stuff. And I asked someone who's sober, and I said, how long do I have to keep doing this for? When do I graduate? And I'm sure we've all felt like that, right? Who's kind of felt like that? Okay, I get that I have to go to meetings or I have to do workshops or I have to read stuff, but when am I done? When can I be done with this? And the answer I heard back was never. We do this forever. And I don't know about you, but I was like, oh, not happy about that news. Really? Well, I want to tell you there is a destination. We continue to work on ourselves forever, just in the same way we exercise. 15 years ago, I could run 10K. I can't even run half a K now. But I do know I need to exercise and move my body. I do the Peloton and I do stretching and skiing and hiking and biking. We all know that we can't stop physically exercising. We know that that's essential for our physical health as well as our mental and emotional health. Well, it's the same with personal development. I don't do this stuff, and I've been doing this for almost 22 years now. I don't do the personal development stuff that I'm going to talk about today because I have to, because I want to stay away from a drink one day at a time. Because if I don't do it, I don't even think about drinking. I do it because of the rich rewards it brings to my life. And I'm all about the good stuff. I just want the good stuff. Where's the good stuff? How do I get it? I've always been like that. I just do it in a much healthier way now. So I want to, before I kind of go through in more detail what we need to do to be emotionally sober, I want to borrow a term from the 12 steps, and it is this language is kind of used all the way outside of 12 step programs, but I think it's very helpful to help us understand what's really going on here. And it talks about, in step 1, unmanageability. Now, people take that to mean that when your alcohol problem is unmanageable, when you're getting DUIs, when you're getting arrested, when you're falling over drunk in front of your kids, all of that kind of stuff. Now, that would be, those things would be some red flags that there's a serious alcohol problem there. But what I want to say is, what it really refers to is emotional unmanageability. And emotional unmanageability shows up years before the external unmanageability shows up, which means, and this is true for most of the people I work with, on the outside, everything looks all right, everything, got a car, goes on vacation, got a job, everything, enjoys the drink, but everything on the outside looks like it's okay. It's what's going on the inside. It's the bit that we can't show. And for me, I was completely unmanageable in that I had no mastery over my emotions. They ruled me. I was full of fear. I couldn't deal with disappointment. I took everything personally. And that's, I think, the crucial part of emotional sobriety is when we don't have emotional sobriety, we take everything very, very personally. So if Kelly cancels plans with me on Friday, I take that very, very personally. Because I'm emotionally sober, I think that's a shame, but she is a busy mom, she has a 1-year-old, I'm sure she's exhausted. I can remember what that's like. I'm sure we'll get to it, when she has more time and energy. That would be an appropriate emotional response to that. What would be an inappropriate emotional response is, she doesn't like me anymore. What did I do? Did I upset her? Like, what was it, that email I sent? All of that kind of stuff, which is what I used to do. Does everybody identify with that? It's called people pleasing. People pleasing is an aspect of not being emotionally sober. And it's when we care more about what other people think about us than what we think about ourselves. And then we get owned by that. I start behaving in ways in the world to please you, to get you to like me, to get you to approve of me. And that is what leads me to feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, because I am out of integrity and out of alignment with myself. Making sense so far? Please put it in the chat, because I always like to know that I'm not waffling on about things that don't make any sense to anyone. So it's the emotional unmanageability that is really the problem that is revealed when we stop drinking, because what alcohol does in our culture is we end up defaulting to alcohol as a method to deal with our emotions. We just default to it. It's funny, I was just watching a show last night. We just started a British show that I love called Line of Duty. Watched the first episode. It's a police drama, and the female detective had a hard day, and how is that communicated on film? When the police detective comes home from a really hard day, she pours herself a nice big glass of wine to deal with the stress of having the hard day at work. And that's what we have been culturally conditioned to do, is we've been conditioned to believe we need a drink. We've had a hard day, it's been stressful, we got dumped, we didn't get the promotion, whatever it is, we reach for a drink. And then what happens is that thwarts our own emotional development. Because if drink works, because it does initially, why do I need to develop the skills to deal with stress, frustration, disappointment, fear, all of those kind of things? So when we stop drinking, we are often emotional teenagers. So we can be, in our 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, but we are emotional teenagers because we never developed the tools to navigate this life successfully. We defaulted to alcohol. And for most of us, and it was very true for me, I wasn't parented in a way where it was modeled to me, or I was given emotional tools to deal with all of these things that were going on inside of me. The message from my family was to push it down. It doesn't matter, and to push it down. Just the other day, my 10-year-old, we were having a discussion about something. I can't remember what it was now, but he said to me, "Mummy, you hurt my feelings when you said that." And I was just like, oh, that for me, it was just the best thing ever, because that I want to raise sons who have emotional intelligence, who can be connected to how they feel and have the tools to deal with them. And he let me know that the flippant comment I made was hurtful to him. And I was able to hear him and say, I'm sorry, and apologize. And we were able to connect much more deeply from that moment. So, but I wasn't given any of that when I was growing up. And I'm going to guess a lot of you probably weren't either. So that's why alcohol becomes the main thing so quickly in our lives, because we default to it, because it just works, it fixes. So we drink because of how we feel, and that feeling of being uncomfortable in our own skin, I think, is the biggest and most prevalent feeling of just not liking yourself. I was always chasing the thing that was going to fix me, that when I got that, when I was that, when I had that, then I would feel safe, and then I would feel happy and everything would be okay. Has anyone else done that? So for me, there's 4 corners of emotional sobriety. There's 4 things that we have to learn and that we have to master. And these are just skills like riding a bike. There's nothing kind of like, woo, like, you know, if you kind of, I don't know, pray or do, all those things are good. But these are just very concrete skills, like learning to ride a bike. If you just keep practicing them, you'll get better and better and better. So the 4 things that we need for emotional sobriety is we need to have boundaries, we need to have balance, we need to deal with resentments, and we need to be able to change our limiting beliefs. And I'll go through all 4 of those in a bit more detail. So boundaries and balance are very closely related. You can't have one without the other. So I love Brené Brown talks about this, that about boundaries, that her research has shown you cannot be happy or successful unless you have good boundaries. You just can't. It's impossible. Boundaries keep the good in and the bad out. Now, I didn't even know boundaries were a thing. I didn't know that. And I remember the day when my podcast co-host Chip said to me, I was having some conflict with my mother. And he said, you know, you can have boundaries with family. And I just went, oh, no, I didn't know that. Now, boundaries for me, when I first discovered that I needed to have boundaries, and particularly with family and members and my mother and all that kind of stuff, I understood that, but I didn't know how. And it's the specific how we have boundaries. This is how we have boundaries. Say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. That is a life-changing rule. It will change your life if you practice having boundaries in that way. Say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. The reason that most of us struggle with boundaries is because of the people-pleasing behavior. And it's because the misguided belief, and I do feel that women, girls, are raised to be pleasing. That's something that's culturally given to us, to be pleasing. So what happens is, the struggle is that we are worried that if I say no, or I can't do that, or I'm not able to do that, or whatever it is, that you will be disappointed with me, you will be upset with me, you may even be angry with me. And how you feel is much more important than how I feel. So I will say, yes, I'll do the thing, because that will make you happy, it will please you, even though I walk away from that interaction going, oh crap, why did I agree to do that thing on Saturday? I can't do it, like I don't have time, I don't want to do it. And then we spend all week twisted up in knots, regretting that we said we were going to do the thing. Every time we see the person, we're like, oh, has anyone done that, by the way? Has anyone done that? Said yes to something they didn't want to do, couldn't do. It gets to Friday, and then we're resentful. We're pissed off. We feel taken advantage of, whatever, and we don't want to do the thing. So we get our phones and we send a little message and we say, you know, I think I've got food poisoning. I think I may have eaten something. I really don't think I can make it tomorrow. I'm so sorry. And we feel better because we've got out of the thing that we didn't want to do in the first place. But we also feel bad because we've lied. Anyone done that, or not, or just me? So we're constantly in this kind of like feeling of anxiety and tension where we just agree to things that we don't want to do. So I want to tell you personally, I love a no. I'm really, really happy with a no, because then I know where I stand. What I cannot stand is a wishy-washy yes. I cannot stand it when someone says, yeah, sure, but I can sense that I don't know if they mean that. I don't know if I can rely on them. And I'm kind of in that like, oh, I'm not sure, are they going to deliver? I love a no. Thank you. Now I can move on to plan B and know where I'm at. So the reason that we are so bad at boundaries is because of this belief that we are responsible for other people's emotional experience. So when we practice the rules, say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. As long as I am kind, as long as I say, I'm sorry, Kelly, I can't help you with the thing on Saturday. How Kelly feels about that is not my responsibility. And that is the big difference. I can walk away from that and I am in alignment with my integrity. Now, when we say no, it means that we can say yes to lots of other things. Of course, I want to help out a friend if I'm able to, and all of those kind of things. But just practicing having boundaries will change your life. And they are essential for sobriety, because what happens is if we say yes and then we feel resentful, and I'll talk about this in a second when I get to resentments. Resentments are the free drunk. We use these reasons because we've got us, because we feel so uncomfortable in our own skin. That's why we drink. Am I making sense so far? I just like to check in the chat because, okay, good, yeah. So what goes with boundaries is balance, and balance is about balancing our needs. And we all have different needs, and how we meet those needs changes according to our circumstances, and our circumstances will always change. So we have physical health need, mental health needs, emotional health needs, spiritual needs, work, career needs, family needs, friendship needs, hobby needs, etc., etc. So a really good example of this was when the pandemic started and we went into the first lockdown. We all still had needs for exercise, connection, to work, all of those kind of things. But our circumstances dramatically changed. So we all had to meet those needs in different ways. I remember my family and we get up quite early, and the little town we were living in at the time, we got our bikes and we'd ride around the village in the morning at like 7 a.m. and we'd visit with people, like, you know, more than 6 feet apart. We'd just be at the end of their garden like, hi, how are you? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. That was how we met our connection needs during that first lockdown. So you can't meet your needs unless you have good boundaries. Now, when we are out of balance, we will feel uncomfortable in our own skin. If we're not eating right, if we're not exercising, if we're not getting enough sleep, if we're working too much, if we're not spending enough time with our kids or our friends. You know, when I had very little children and I was too tired and I never went out, I really just wanted to have some time with my girlfriends. I didn't want a few hours not being a mum, not being a wife. And I didn't really have much opportunity to do that. But eventually I had a mums group and we met once a month and we went for dinner. And that met those needs. Before I had kids, before I was married, I was off to London, here, there, everywhere, going out, doing things with my friends. So circumstances change and we have to be aware of where we are out of balance. And you can ask yourself right now, where am I out of balance? What need is not being met? In my book, I talk about the 5 pillars of sobriety, and balance is one of the pillars of sobriety. And I talk about boundaries and how boundaries are essential to support our balance. So those 2 things are essential for to be emotionally sober, and those are skills that you have to learn. For me, I had to learn. The first one I had to learn was with my mother, because my mother used guilt to manipulate me, and I believed I had to do things to please my mother, and it had a big emotional cost for me. So I got to the point where my boundary with my mother was, I can see her once a month and I'll take her out for lunch for 2 hours, and that's all I can do. And she wasn't happy about that, but I practiced the rule. Say what you mean what you say. I didn't say it mean. I just calmly repeated that I wouldn't be able to do the thing that she wanted to do. And now we're in a much better place. We don't have a perfect mother-daughter relationship by any means, but we have a decent functioning relationship. So having boundaries will lead to us feeling more balanced. We won't be burning up energy uselessly, worrying what somebody thinks about us, or trying to please someone, all of that kind of stuff. And then we can be more productive and effective in our lives. And the biggest thing is that thought that leads us to having a drink because of how we feel will be diminished. So let me talk about resentments and limiting beliefs. So yeah, when we lie because we want to get out of something we've agreed to that we don't want to do, we don't feel good about ourselves. We have to stop that behavior. It's not emotionally sober. So resentments are the free drunk. So a resentment, give you a couple of examples. I know when I have a resentment because it rents space in my head. I go over and over and over and over it, the scenario, usually how I'm gonna put them right, how I'm gonna show them how I was right all along. I'll be playing out that scenario over my head. Everyone follow? Everyone do that? The other way I know I have resentment is when I start planning revenge. That's perfectly normal, by the way. We all do that. So we need a tool to be free of resentments. When we talk about having freedom in sobriety, of course, being free from alcohol, not having to think about it, is important, and that's one level of freedom. But I want to tell you what's on offer here in emotional sobriety is having freedom in our minds, so that I am not playing this around over and over and over again. Because having a resentment is like drinking poison and wanting the other person to die. It does not benefit me. So on Monday, I have a discussion with a coworker, and they say something that really pisses me off. And it's just going round and round in my mind. Like, I can't believe, and I'm just burnt up. And I get to the end of the week and it's just gone round and round, and I'm so pissed. And I probably told a few people. I probably said, to a few people, can I tell you what she just said? Can you believe what she just said? And I'm fueling it, that self-righteous anger, that self-righteous indignation. Here's the thing about resentments. They are very seductive. There is a seduction to the self-righteousness of them. It gets to Friday and I'm not drinking, and my co-workers say, do you want to come to happy hour? And I'm like, yeah, I will. I deserve a drink, actually, the week I've had. And then it leads to the free drunk. The free drunk is that I am drinking, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault that I'm drinking. I'm drinking because of what my co-worker said to me on Monday. Not my fault. And that's how we rationalize drinking, by nurturing our resentments. Everyone following me so far? There's two very effective methods that I know to deal with resentments. One of them is in the 12-step program. The other one is rational emotive behavioral therapy, which is what I teach in my programs. And it's just a cognitive written exercise that enables a shift in perception. Because when I stay in the place of, let me tell you what they did to me, it's so unfair, I just block myself. I'm burning up energy. I'm drinking poison and wanting the other person to not die. Now, I want to say one thing here. It's very true for some of us that we have been harmed in different ways. It's not that we just want to let go of that and just get over it. What we want to do is go through a process so we can get our power back and choose our response to whatever that was, whatever harm that was. So it's not, I mean, in some cases, sometimes something has been done to us that was unfair or wrong or hurtful or mean. It's not about, I don't walk around being like all light and forgiveness and when I have a resentment, I have to get to a place where I am free to have a response to that, not just an emotional reaction that I have no control over. So resentment is about getting free of this stuff that rents space in our head. Now, in that process, what is revealed is my limiting beliefs. My limiting beliefs. And we all have limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are just the story you tell yourself about yourself. They are formed usually when we are young, and it's how we make sense of the world. When we're young, we're bombarded with information, and we are trying to create meaning. So we all form limiting beliefs, and those limiting beliefs just become rules that we live our life by. So they become a filter system like that. We see the world through our limiting beliefs, and we discard anything that doesn't fit with our belief system about ourselves. So two core limiting beliefs that I had up until really my emotional rock bottom when I was about 3 years sober, and I believe these like I believe the sun will set tonight, is that I'm not good enough, and because I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of being loved. And I just knew that was true because I had a lot of evidence. And when we have limiting beliefs, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. We just create scenarios where it's proven to me that that's true. I didn't get the promotion. For me, it was romantic relationships. Same pattern, different guy, same pattern. I would always attract, I was an anxiously attached. I would always attract an avoidant. We would have this like 2 or 3 month intense thing where he would think I was wonderful, and then he would begin to leave me. And I would always interpret that to mean he's doing that because I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not smart enough. I always interpreted that behavior to be personal, and it fitted with my limiting belief of myself. If Kelly cancelled her plans with me on Friday, it's really because I'm not good enough. If she really liked me, if she really thought I was a friend, she wouldn't have done that. She would have found a babysitter. She would have made it work. The reason that she did that, it's really because people cancel plans with me because they don't, I'm just like 10th on their list of friends. I would make any scenario fit that limiting belief. Does that make sense? And what happens with resentments and limiting beliefs, when they are in control of us, that is when we have inappropriate emotional responses to events. Sorry to keep picking on you, Kelly. Kelly cancelling plans with me on Friday because she's got a baby and she's exhausted, and I don't remember what it's like. It takes like 3 or 4 months to get a date together because of all of the other things you're juggling. Not personal, nothing to do with me. Unfortunate, but that's how it is. That's an appropriate emotional response, and that's the place we want to get to. So it's not that I will be 22 years sober in May. It's not that I don't get resentments or I'm pretty good with boundaries. My boundaries are pretty solid. I can sometimes get out of balance though, and because things change. I'm going to the menopause, so that's a whole thing that's changing there. Resentments, after doing this work, where it's got me to is I generally don't take things personally. I generally don't, but every so often I do. Every so often I get a resentment that's a humdinger, renting space in my head. Somebody said something or did something, and I've just taken it very personally. The only way I can change that, because I don't have that switch in my head where I can just be like forgiveness and I have to write it down so it shifts my perception. And the shift comes in the story that I'm telling myself about that event, which is all to do with my limiting beliefs. So emotional sobriety, we have to begin to uncover our limiting beliefs. And then we have to replace them with something that's more helpful. That's all it is. I remember when I did this work, and I was, like I said, I was forced into this. I hit an emotional rock bottom. I was in a very, very dark place. And I intensely did this work that I have just described to you. And I was walking down the street one day. I was working at the time in a rehab, and I had a colleague who I had a crush on. He was a therapist. I was a therapist. He was sober. I was sober. Oh, I thought we'd be so cute. And after about 3 weeks, I realized that he just saw me as a friend, that it wasn't going to happen. And I kind of had that realization. And I was pleased that I hadn't done anything inappropriate to embarrass myself, that we'd have a professional relationship. But it kind of just hit me that he didn't see me in that way. And my next thought was, I wonder what's wrong with him. And it hit me like a thunderbolt, because I had spent my entire life believing there was something wrong with me. And it had just gone. I didn't believe that anymore. I thought, I'd make someone a great girlfriend. I wonder why he can't see that. And it's not that I went to like, I'm the most amazing, gorgeous, most sexiest, beautiful person on the planet. Because that's ridiculous. I just went to, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm just all right. I was comfortable in my own skin. And I don't even know really how that happened, but it was a result of doing this work. Remember, I said, I want the good stuff. I'm all about the good stuff. The reason that I still write out my resentments, write out my limiting beliefs, keep a gratitude list for over 2 decades is because it leads to these breakthroughs down the line somewhere. Something shifts, something changes. And that is freedom. I'm going to wrap it up because I think I'm getting out of time. I want to say that emotional sobriety is 2 things. It's a shift in perception as a result of consistency. That's all it is. I see this a lot in forums. I've tried everything. I've done everything. I've joined that, read that book. Blah, blah. I generally find what that person hasn't tried is consistency. It is consistently doing. And I really, I do the 12 steps because that's just where I came from. And, if you've been sober as long as I have, that's kind of all it was. There are tons of different programs now. There's I Love Women for Sobriety, there's Smart Recovery, there's Refuge Recovery. I have the 5 pillars in Soberful, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter which one it is. What matters is you consistently do it. Don't do it for a bit so you feel a bit better and then stop doing everything. It's just like exercise. 15 years ago, I could run 10K. The reason I could run 10K is I just started running and I built it up and I built it up and I built it up and I kept there and I kept there, I kept there. And then I stopped running. And now I can't. It's just like that with personal development. We just consistently need to make time for ourselves because we are worth it to just do work that reveals ourselves to ourselves. That's all personal development is. And that leads to a shift in perception. Nothing has changed in the world. My mother's still my mother. People are still people. Politicians are still politicians. But how I perceive everything has shifted. And that is the greatest freedom that any of us can know. And that's what's on offer for emotional sobriety. So I would urge you to find your thing and consistently do it. Find a practice, find a method. Know that it must comprise of these 4 elements and it needs to be really solid. Not a wishy-washy vague thing. It needs to be real solid tools like riding a bike. And it's never too late to learn any of this stuff. So I think I'll wrap it up there. Kelly, is that about enough right amount of time? Did I?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
That's perfect. As long as you feel complete, then that's perfect.
Complete.
That's a Lisa phrase. Okay, I'm just gonna add myself with you. There we go. Awesome. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I feel like I learn something new from you every time I talk to you, of course. And the chat has been going crazy with comments because everyone is just really resonating with this topic and what you've been saying, Veronica. So thank you. So let's get to the questions. Okay. So the first one is, when it comes to boundaries, what if we can't even figure out what we mean because we're so used to people pleasing?
Yeah, I think that's really common. I actually felt like that, really lost. because I didn't, if you like hamburgers, I liked hamburgers. If you like green, I like green. Had no idea. So I think there's some really helpful tools that you can use in the beginning that I tell my clients. For example, when someone does ask you like, oh, can you help out with the thing? Your standard response will be, can I get back to you on that? Just little things like that. So you have time to go away and reflect, like, am I able to, do I have the time and energy to help out on that thing or not? And then it's easier to send an email or a text message rather than be on the spot. But I also want to say it's a trial and error process. It's not, you don't do it perfectly from day one. It's really be prepared to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes. It might be like, yeah, I can do that. And then afterwards, when you've done it, be like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I remember with my husband, when we were dating, we were in England and we'd come to America, and he used to pack our trips with like appointments. Like we're gonna have breakfast at 7 a.m. and coffee at 9 a.m. and this at 11 and 12. And I was like, okay. And then afterwards I was like, that was awful. I'm never doing that again. So the next trip, he was like, right, so I'm like, you know what? I'll meet you here and I'll meet you there, but I'm not running around and doing all of that. So be prepared to learn from your mistakes. That's the self-reflection bit.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, our next one is, can you explain more about the other method to work through resentments? I think you said it was called rational emotive therapy.
Rational emotive behavioral therapy, REBT. REBT. Yeah, it's a very structured written exercise, and it's A, B, C, D, E. A is, what's the activating event? So what happened? B is, what is my irrational belief about this event? C is, what is the consequences for me when I believe this irrational belief? D is, disrupt the irrational belief. Is this true? E is, what is a more empowered way of thinking about this thing that happened? So I'll give the example, like activating event, Kelly and I have plans on Friday, and then she cancels last minute. My irrational belief is she does that because she doesn't really think much of me. I don't really matter to people. I'm not good enough. What are the consequences of me believing that? Well, I drink, I eat sugar, I send stupid text messages, etc. Disrupt the irrational belief. Is that true? Well, Kelly does have a 1-year-old. She's really busy. She has a lot going on. We used to see each other a lot before she had her baby, and I know she tries. So maybe it's to do with her being exhausted rather than anything to do with me. What's a new effective way of thinking? Kelly is a new mom. I need to understand that. Maybe we can do like something in the park and catch up that way. When I get to E, I start feeling better about A, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, I think that was a perfect example. It makes so much sense to me, and I'm sure it does for everybody else.
Something happens and we tell ourselves a story about what happened that fits with our limiting beliefs about ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that sums up everything about emotional sobriety. And when you think about it in terms like that, it breaks everything down so simply and makes it kind of like I get a feeling of relief, because I'm like, okay, like this makes sense. Because I feel like in my personal experience, sometimes I can beat myself up for feeling certain ways, like feeling hurt or disappointed or something with the actions of someone else in that way. So this gives us more power, I guess, personally.
Yeah, it does. It is very much about getting your power back. And I really want to say what I have learned in my sobriety is the most important thing is that I'm okay. That's the most important thing. And that's not selfish. And that doesn't mean I don't care about you. But I have to be okay, and I have to have freedom in my mind. And I have to take responsibility to get to that place. Then I can be an effective mother, wife, friend, colleague, etc. So I have to be okay, and I need to do what it takes to be okay.
Right, exactly. Okay. Next question is about your book, and they want to know if you have more about emotional sobriety in your new book.
Yes, it's all. So the second part of the book is the 5 pillars of sobriety. And the 5 pillars are movement, connection, balance, process, and growth. And that's what it's all about. The chapter on balance, I really kind of go into detail how to have boundaries. So if you want to get that information, it's in there. And then the chapter on process, there's a lot about resentments and limiting beliefs. So it's really all about the emotional sobriety.
Wonderful. And then our next question is, can you describe how you keep a resentments journal?
Yeah, so I've had one of these for almost 20 years. And on a regular basis, particularly when I know I'm like a little burnt up, people talk about journaling a lot, and I think journaling is really helpful. I personally can't do unstructured journaling. I don't just like write out. It doesn't work for me. I have to do structured journaling. So I will just put, I'm resentful at, and I will write down, oof, the way my husband asked me that question earlier, or like, oof, the way my friend hung up on me. I'll just write down whatever the events are until I'm like, yeah, that's everything. And then I'll go through the process that I just talked about. And I tend to do the 12-step process because it's the one I'm used to, but I also do the REBT one too. And then I write out my fears I'm frightened of, because this is like plucking weeds out of our minds. When it's down on paper, then I can see it. Then I look at any limiting beliefs, and then I write out gratitudes. And that can take between 5 and 15 minutes. And I do that regularly. It's nothing. No, that's a tiny amount of time and energy compared to the time and energy I try to spend managing my drinking and being an emotional train wreck.
Okay, awesome. So the next question is, consistency means continually following a program. Does that include being part of your program, that is signing up on a monthly program and dipping in often?
So I do have a program, but there are tons of them now. I mean, there's so many. For me, it has to have something solid. I love Women for Sobriety. By all means, join my program, but it's not the only one. There's all sorts of, the main point is finding one that really resonates with you, that kind of speaks to you, and do all of it and do it consistently. But you'd be very welcome in Soberful life too.
Right, exactly. And I'm hearing also just making sure you stay consistent to the work in whatever group or program that you join.
It doesn't matter what it is. It really doesn't. I've been around sober people for a long time, and I've met many people with really solid sobriety and emotionally sober who've got there in many different ways. And the only thing we had in common was the consistency bit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Great question. So next one is, dialectical behavioral therapy was the modality that finally got me to feel my feels and not stuff. Awareness and recognizing my somatic red flags, and call on the tools and skills of DBT and practice. Do you support DBT?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's great. I've had lots of people, lots of clients have wonderful results with that.
Yes, I've heard great things about it as well. Awesome. And then another question is, I'm 53 and going through perimenopause. Can you speak to how menopause has impacted emotional sobriety?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So what I've noticed is, I've had a little bit of PMT through my life. There's a pattern to it, and you deal with it. So I think it was in the last year, I noticed 2 days before my period arrived, I would have this kind of real depression, anxiety, complete feeling of hopelessness descend on me. And that's not me. And it was really kind of first of all, I was like, this isn't an appropriate emotional response to the little thing that happened last week. And it confused me. And then it took me about 6 months to make the connection that, and then 2 days later I get my period. And I realized that something had changed, and I'm really noticing it. I mean, the other thing I'm noticing is I felt like this earlier, just the anger and rage, kind of this hormonal. I mean, I remember when I gave birth, and, just a few days later, when you get that hormone drop and you get the baby blues, it's quite a massive, its hormones have this massive emotional response. And now I'm at this point of my life, I'm really kind of noticing it. So I'm trying to be aware, pay attention, that when I have these feelings, like, is it the thing that happened, or could this be, perimenopause symptoms? And I'm starting to do things to support that. I know exercise really helps. I'm going to get some acupuncture. I also practice the EFT. That also helps. So it's really, I noticed it just the other day. I was like furious with my family, like furious with them. And I knew why. And I was able to not act on it. I was able to just be, this is just the hormones. Nobody's needs you to shout at them right now. Go take a minute. I don't do that every single time, but most of the time I can catch it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think awareness, just having that awareness is like the first part of that for
Yeah.
any type of emotional response.
Because otherwise we pin it to the event, we pin it to the way my husband unloaded the dishwasher. It's like we pin it
Right.
to an event.
Right.
And that's when we're having these inappropriate emotional responses to events. And how I balance myself is now changing, because this is a need. The hormonal changes in my body is a need that I have to respond to. And so I have to balance myself differently.
Right. Agreed. And this is somewhat in the same vein. So, how do you know the difference between just feeling your feelings and an inappropriate emotional response?
So we always want to feel our feelings. We don't ever not want to do that. Feelings and emotions are just data. That's all they are. They're information that we need to pay attention to. So it's not that we ever are going to get to a place of not feeling anything. We want all of this data, but we want to be able to have mastery so we can choose more appropriate responses for ourselves and for other people. So we want to feel our feelings, but what's really important to me in my sobriety is that when those feelings are difficult or uncomfortable or painful, I absolutely know I can change them. Maybe not like that, but I know. Before, I used to be in a place where I needed the outside world to do something for me to feel better. Like I needed you to apologize, or I needed you to say something, or I needed this to happen, and then I would feel better. I can't wait on that. Who knows how long that will take, if it ever happens. I need to have control. So I know, so for me, when I have a resentment, I know I can write it out and I know it will shift. I know my perception will shift, and I'll be like, and sometimes I have to talk to someone. Sometimes I need to call someone and say, I just need to talk this through with you. So we want to feel our feelings, but we want to have emotional mastery over them, especially the difficult and uncomfortable ones. And, for me, like, the appropriate emotional responses, grief, sadness is an appropriate emotional response. We don't want to not have that. What we want to do is honor it and validate it and move through it. Now, we don't want to be stuck in it 20 years later. That would be inappropriate. But we want to have these responses so we can begin to move through them at a pace that feels right for us. Grief, sadness, if something sad's happened, I honor that by feeling sad and validating that emotion. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense for sure. And it's important. So I love that we can do both, feel our feelings and consider what our response is. So we got a lot of questions as the chat was going on about ruminating on these either limiting beliefs or our inappropriate emotional responses that we already engaged in, and we kind of know that they were inappropriate, and we keep thinking, oh, or we are in a situation where someone maybe hurts our feelings and we feel hurt and we keep ruminating on that. How can we avoid ruminating, or at least move past the rumination process, which is so painful?
So that's when we have to take action, and that's, for me, is writing it out. So the method that I briefly kind of taught you are rational emotive behavioral therapy, which is ABCDE. I also add on another one to that, which is F, which is how to move forward. How do I move forward from this? So first of all, write it out in a way that makes it just begin to see things differently. And then for me, often what is revealed, certainly at the beginning when I first started doing this work years ago, what is revealed is that this happened and I ended up feeling this way because I actually didn't have very good boundaries. what's often for me to move forward, and that's how, see, all of these pieces come together. That's how I changed. I would just get continuous resentments, and I'd be writing them out every day to like 4 or 5 people. And what was revealed over and over and over was quite often I volunteered to put myself in a position to be hurt. Like in a relationship, I would ignore red flags that this person wasn't right for me. I said yes when I meant no. And that I needed to change my response to people. So it just kept being revealed to me that I had to change. So as soon as I notice something renting space in my head, then it becomes to my self-awareness. Then I practice my program and write it down so I can begin to be free of it. Now, sometimes I've had in the past reoccurring resentments against the same person. In fact, if when people tell me they don't get resentful, or they don't get resentful against their spouse or partner, I don't believe them, because that's part of and that's who shows up mostly on my resentments. And what's revealed to me is my expectations or my assumptions, or I was being unfair, or I needed to have a better boundary or whatever. So, and that's how I move forward. But then that has a ripple effect, and then it changes my behavior going forward. What happened then is I stopped putting myself in a position to get resentful, because I could see how I did that, and I began to stop doing it. And then my life became so much easier.
Oh, yes, that makes total sense. And I think it also, well, I feel like it always all goes back to your main mantra, which is nothing is personal, whenever I hear that or hear someone talk about that, I think of you for sure. Because it's just such a simple sentence, but it means so much. And when you think about, or I know in my personal experience, when I think about having my feelings hurt or ruminating on a situation or something, it almost always has to do with the fact that I'm taking something personally, or, someone didn't meet my expectations, or I was disappointed they didn't show up in the way that I wanted them to, and all of those things. So I think this is such important and valid information for everyone, whether they're drinking or not,
Like the example I gave, like it was romantic relationships that really kind of blew this whole thing open for me, and I would always attract somebody that was going to leave me, and I always interpreted that leaving of me to be my fault because I wasn't good enough. Well, after I really did this work, the last time that happened before I met my husband, I looked at this person and thought, oh, you're really frightened. You're really, really frightened. Intimacy really, really frightens you, and I see that you have to leave. Now, it hurt, because that's an appropriate emotional response, but I didn't make the interpretation. And that was a massive breakthrough for me, massive breakthrough, that I saw that this is your stuff. This isn't anything to do with me. It's sad, because we really could have been a great couple, but you have a lot of shit and I can see it. And that was when I realized that things had really shifted for me.
Right. And it feels so freeing to have those realizations.
Yeah.
And another question that just came through is, how can I recognize my needs from my wants?
That's a really interesting question. And again, I think the answer is trial and error. I think it's very true. Lots and lots of things that I have wanted, what I've ended up getting has actually been so much better than what I think it was that I want. So I think we have to go forward, and we have to listen to the way we balance. One of the ways we balance ourselves is to listen to our bodies, and listen to what our bodies are saying, listen to what our emotions are saying. That's data that we need, and go forward to the thing we want, but also be aware that we'll go forward to the thing we want, and there might be a road that goes like that. That is the thing that we really need. That's the thing for us. When I got sober, I never had any idea what I wanted to do in my life. I have this wonderful career now. I love this. I'm good at it. It's what I'll do until the day I die. But I had no idea on day 5 of sobriety, this is where I was going to be. I thought there was a completely different path I was going down, and I went like that, and this happened. So we go forward, and we just look at the information of it's all trial and error. Nobody does this human experience perfectly.
So true. And we just have to be open to change and our path changing. Because I always think I'm going down a certain path, and then sure enough, it changes the next year or month or whatever it is. Yes. So our last question to wrap it up is what's one thing you can recommend for our community that we can do right now to get curious about our emotional sobriety?
So I would spend the rest of the day listening to your body and paying attention to what you're thinking. Just bring your self awareness to that and notice. Just give there's just a moment between something happening and our response, and just take that moment to ask yourself, what is the story I'm telling myself about this? And see what your brain comes up with. My husband was late home, or whatever. What is the story I'm telling myself about this? That helps a lot. It's a really, really useful tool to begin to self-reflect and to interrupt the very subconscious programmed responses that we have to lots of different things.
Yes, that's perfect. Just notice and get curious and start listening. I think that's beautiful and something simple that we can get started with right away. Thank you, Veronica.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. This was
I'm
lovely.
gonna take you off the spotlight.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for coming today. We appreciate you being here. And next week we're gonna have, just let me bring it up. We'll have two speakers next week. They are the co-founders of a nonprofit called So Bipolar, and they're gonna be talking about mental illness and caregiving. And their names are Melissa Duncan and Jihan Gabart. So for more information on that, please visit sherecovers.org/mental health Mondays. And we would like to thank Veronica, our guest, for all that she covered today and for being here with us and sharing her wonderful education. And please go get her book, Soberful, for more information there. And thank you, of course, to our attendees for attending, listening, showing up, holding space, and bringing all your questions forward. We are truly stronger together. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording and stop streaming.